Liverpool have to win their next match against Villa, and it really comes down to early in the week in the Carabao Cup because what we saw was Arne Slot pretty much punting this match, throwing it away, and this has fans a little bit divided because on one side we could say that it's still a cup, and Liverpool should be trying to compete in all these cups, and they should be putting on at least a somewhat competitive lineup. And what we saw was the opposite of that. And certainly other fans are going to argue, well, it's the Carabao Cup, and nobody's really going to care if Liverpool wins, and Liverpool have all this issues that they have competing in the Premier League and in the Champions League. So is the Carabao Cup even as important? And I'm going to say this, look, if you're Arne Slot and you decide to not put out a strong 11 that could at least compete with Crystal Palace, and we could certainly argue about whether or not, even if they had put in a strong lineup, would they even been able to beat Crystal Palace considering the current state they're in. But look, Arne Slot decided to put out a bunch of youngsters, a lot of inexperienced players, and he pretty much knew that this was probably, that they were pretty much going to lose this match. And that's kind of what happened. They got battered 3-0 at home. So when Arne Slot sets up that team, and he pretty much is telling the world and saying, look, I'm okay. I'm going to put the youngsters out. They got to get their experience. They got to get the reps, and I got to rest my players because they're injured or whatnot. And when they lose the way they did, getting battered at home, losing 3-0, that pretty much puts pressure on Arne Slot to win against Villa. Because if you look at sort of just the things that Arne Slot was saying and just sort of the sentiment, it's like, well, I got to play my youngsters. And it was kind of like pretty much saying like, I was probably going to lose this match. And like, I got to rotate players, and I'm looking ahead to Villa. So when you start off that way, this is why I'm saying that this is a must-win match for Liverpool and Arne Slot, because they pretty much put all their eggs in one basket, and that's for really this Villa match and then for Madrid and City. So Arne Slot pretty much saw the schedule ahead, and he saw that I got 3 upcoming matches that are going to be really hard. I got some players that are a little bit nicked up, and then you got this Carabao Cup in the middle of the week. So would it have made sense to put in those players, put in more experienced players, knowing that they probably were going to lose this match, and then the media was going to continue to pile on? So it seemed kind of like he didn't put them out there, so that way he would have an excuse as to why they lost, and then kind of Larry would just kind of like put that under the rug and just kind of be like, all right, well, it's the Carabao Cup, and now they got Villa. So that's why I'm trying to say that if you really look at how the week has gone and just how Liverpool have just continued to lose matches, falling down early, not keeping clean sheets, this match against Villa really is a must-win match because they're continuing to drop points in the Premier League, and we're still seeing that this team quite hasn't gelled yet. So what can we expect from Liverpool against Villa? Villa coming into this match have been they started off the season a little bit up and down, but lately they've been pretty good. And they're coming off of a win against Man City, and they kept a clean sheet against Man City. And that's pretty hard considering just how good Haaland has been. And we know that Haaland has been very dominant. He's been scoring his goals. So we're seeing Liverpool entering this match playing a tough team. And this is going to be a lot harder match than it was against Brentford. Liverpool are at home, so they do have that advantage. But so far, we haven't yet seen that there's any sort of indication that Liverpool can actually win a match, let alone. But here they are playing Aston Villa, who certainly is not going to be an easy matchup for them. And then they have to play after that Madrid and then Man City, which is going to be matchups that are going to be even harder. So the real question is can Arne Slot actually win this must-win match? Because if they don't win this match, then they just continue to go down the table, and then the pressure continues to mount on Arne Slot. And then how much longer can they keep losing these matches? And if we're just, I just did want to circle back to the press conference after the Carabao Cup. I thought that Arne Slot's comments was a little bit interesting. He said, "I saw Manchester City's starting 11, and they didn't even have one starter from the weekend, but it felt like their best team." That is a bit of an insight. Chelsea can bring Estevao in. Then after I made 2 substitutions tonight, we had 6 teenagers. And it's very tone deaf in the sense that when you consider how much Liverpool has spent in the transfer window, they spent almost £450 million. So to say that the squad doesn't have enough depth and that how other teams can bring on these players, it doesn't quite add up here, because Arne Slot chose to set the lineup that he decided on. He chose not to have experienced players on the bench. He didn't have Salah or Van Dijk. He didn't have Ekitike, players that he could have brought on that are a bit more experienced and certainly could have changed the game. And he's comparing Estevao, who is also a teenager. And I know that City and Chelsea definitely did at least feel the squad that was a little bit more competitive, but this was Arne Slot's decision to not do that. And that's because he felt that he needed to rest those players because they have a coming match against Villa. So to me, it's like, come on, like you're a couple weeks ago, it was about how teams are adjusting to playing against Liverpool, that they're all playing very direct, and then now it's, well, I don't have the bench or the resources. I look at the other clubs and they just got a better, stronger lineup, and then it's like, honestly, you got to look in the mirror and you got to see that you didn't play a strong enough lineup, and then that's why you lost so competitively in this match. And some could even argue that you did this on purpose because you knew that you have a match against Villa, Madrid, and City, and you didn't want to field a strong enough team because you were resting players for that. So I just thought that was a little bit odd to say that. And then I do want to transition to a comment from Well Beast. He said, the guy who inherited, it's a picture of Arne Slot. He's like, the guy who inherited a fortune from his father and squandered all of it within a year. And it is a little funny because you look at Arne Slot, who last season won the Premier League and had a team that was pretty competitive. And then this season, we're seeing kind of like the exact opposite, that team is in a free fall. And then he did inherit a good squad from Klopp, and then there was another reinvestment in the team. So I thought that was interesting. But look, Liverpool, they've already conceded 23 goals in 15 games this season. This team just continues to not be able to stop teams from scoring, and that's really what's holding this team back. So we're gonna have to see how they react against Aston Villa. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that Arne Slot and Liverpool are going to turn things around and beat Aston Villa, or do you think that this match ends in a draw, or is Liverpool going to keep losing and dropping points? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.